In this video, as promised, you are going to get a bit of experience working with an NPM package on your own. Before we get into the challenge though, I want to take a quick moment to talk about node modules, the directory that NPM created. This is a generated directory, so that means that NPM generates it, and it's not something we should be manually editing, because when we use the NPM command again, our edits are going to get overwritten. You can actually recreate this directory from scratch using NPM based off of the contents of package.json and package.lock.json. So if you were to download a zip for this course, or you were to grab the code from the GitHub repository, which contains all of the course code, you'll notice that the node modules directory is nowhere to be found. So let's experiment with this by actually deleting it from our local project. I'm going to remove that folder. And this is exactly what you would see if you grabbed the lecture zip for the last lesson. It's the same files, but with no node modules directory. Now, the node modules directory is necessary for our app to run. When we require an NPM library, it's going to look in that node modules folder for the application code. So if I were to run app.js right now, it would fail. Let's do it just to see. So node space app.js. I'm going to go ahead and run this command, and what do we get? We get a nice error message right here. Error, cannot find module validator. So it's complaining that we're using this module, but it's unable to locate it. So clearly we do need the contents of that node modules folder. The answer is, how do we get it back? All we have to do is run npm install. We're not going to provide any specific packages afterwards. This is the exact command. When we do this, it's going to look at the contents of package.lock.json and package.json to determine which dependencies and which versions our application is using. It's then going to recreate that node modules folder from scratch based off of just the contents of these two text files. So for larger applications, the node modules folder can get really, really big. So you might want to delete it if you were to share the code with a friend, or if you were to add it to your own GitHub repository. You can always get that folder back when you download the project by running npm install. So right here, I'm going to run that command, and it's going to regenerate node modules based off of the contents of our JSON files. Right here, we can see that we still have the validator folder inside of there after recreating the directory. And once again, our app is back to its working state. Node space app.js. I run the script, and we do indeed get the correct results. So when you download the code for this course, make sure to run npm install from inside of the project you're working with before you try to run any of the scripts. And now let's jump into the core of the video, which is going to be a challenge for you. You're going to install, require, and use a brand new npm library. Let's go ahead and talk about which one you're going to use. I'm going to head over to the npm search bar. The library you're going to use is called Chalk, like sidewalk chalk. Right here, we can pull up the package page, and you can see that this one is even more popular than the validator package we used before. This one gets 15 million weekly downloads. It is a very popular utility for all sorts of node applications. Now, what exactly does Chalk do? Well, if we scroll down on the package page, we can learn a bit more about it. Chalk is a little utility that allows us to customize how text gets printed to the console when working with Node. So here, for example, this is the default styling. With Chalk, we can override that. And that can be a very useful thing to be able to do. Imagine you're creating a web server using something like Express, an NPM package we'll be exploring later in the class. You might want to customize how you print logs for your server. Maybe you print errors in red or with a red background, and maybe you print success messages in green while you print warnings in yellow. Using a simple tool like Chalk, you can create better applications that make it easier for people to figure out what exactly is going on. So it's going to be your job to install it and use it inside of our little app.js script. Over in Visual Studio Code, before we talk about what I'd like you to do, let's remove our console.log call with our call to validator.isURL. And let's also remove that require on line 1 where we load the validator library in. Now down below, we're going to talk about the challenge for this one, and right here, I have all of the comments that's going to show you how to get this done. So, big picture goal, use the Chalk library in your project. Now that's going to require you to do a few different things. First up, you're going to have to install it. You want to install version 2.4.1 of Chalk. Now, if you forget the command, that's okay. That is the entire point of these challenges. It's to give you experience so you build that muscle memory. You can refer to the previous video to look up that command, or better yet, crack open the PDF guide, as that is a very easy way to scan between lessons and figure out exactly what was covered. It includes code snippets as well as command line commands that we covered in the lesson. Step 2. You're going to load Chalk in using require, just like we did for validator. So that could happen up here on line 1, just before our require call to load in notes. Then you're going to use the Chalk library to print the string success into the console with green text. So green text would look a bit like what we have over here, though the exact shade of green will depend on your operating system and other display settings. Now, once you have that done, you're going to test your work. So you want to run our script after saving it, and you should see the green text success down below in the terminal. Now, if you're wondering how you're supposed to get this done, considering you've never used the library before, that's where the documentation comes into play. Maybe you're saying, hey, Andrew, I bought the course so you could teach me these things. And well, we're going to cover a ton of packages in detail, learning exactly how they work and how you can build complex apps with them. The goal is to also give you a bit of experience here and there, learning how to use new tools on your own. And I'll show you once again how to actually solve the challenge afterwards. It's important to build up this experience so when you're done with the class, you can go off and explore all of the interesting and awesome things that NPM has to offer. Down below, there's some example usages. Here they are printing some text in blue, so you can use this as a starting point. And if you were to scroll down through the documentation, there's a styles section, which gives you even more insight onto the various modifiers and colors that are available to you. So take some time to really explore the docs and figure out how to solve this challenge. When you're done with that, you can always use the bonus to experience a bit more of what Chalk has to offer. Use the docs to mess around with other styles, such as making the text bold, seen here, or inversing the text where the color becomes the background. So here that would be green inversed as an example. Just take some time to mess around with a few other ways Chalk can be used. As always, we're going to work through all of the solutions together. So if you get stuck or you can't quite get something, that is a-okay. All right, pause the video, give this your best effort, and when you're done, come back and click play. How'd you do? Let's go ahead and walk through the solution together. So step 1, we want to install this library. I already gave you the exact version number and the module name, which means down below, from the Notes app folder, we can run npm install, providing that package name. So right here, we are installing a new library, so we do indeed list it out. Chalk, like we did in the last video. Then we use the @ sign to provide the version 2.4.1. Now we can go ahead and run that command, which is going to install Chalk and all of its dependencies. Once we have that done, we can move on to step 2 and actually load it in. Now, when it comes to loading it in and using it, this is where the docs come into play. Right here, I can see that I can load it in and use it like so. So let's get that done. Up above on line 1, though it could have been below this line, I'm going to create my constant called Chalk, and I am going to load in the library by using require. Remember, for NPM packages, we load it in by providing its name inside of the string we pass to require. Now we have access to all of the utilities that Chalk exports, and we can go ahead and take advantage of them. And in this case, our goal is to print the success message in green. So right here, we're going to get that done, and it all starts with a console.log call. What are we going to do? I'm going to call another method inside of there that is Chalk dot followed by the color. So this is one of the things you have to discover for yourself. Right here, they used chalk.blue, but I wanted you to print things in green. If you scroll down, they have even more examples like chalk.red, which you may have seen, and they even use chalk.green right here. So all we have to do is use chalk.green. That's a method, and we're going to go ahead and provide our string, which is indeed the string success. Whoops, let's go ahead and be successful at spelling success. Now, once again, remember, you could have created a variable first and passed that in. That would have been a perfectly valid way to solve the challenge as well. Right here, for example, I could have created a const called green message, setting it equal to whatever comes back from our call to chalk.green. And then I could have passed green message in. Both of those would have been identical solutions in terms of functionality. Now let's go ahead and test our work. I'm going to save app.js. From the terminal, we need to rerun our script. That is node space app.js. And what do I get? I get green MSH is not defined. So here I have a small typo. Clearly, I meant to reference the green message variable. So all I need to do is replace MSH with MSG, matching up with the variable name up above. Now, I could have stopped the recording and gone back and refilmed it pretending to be perfect, but that's not the point. The point is to actually solve problems and work through our issues, becoming better developers along the way. So every once in a while, sure, I'll leave my errors in. Now let's go ahead and save the program again after typing the variable name correctly. I'm going to rerun the script using the up arrow key and enter, and here I am indeed getting my success message printing in green, which is a fantastic step in the right direction. Now, when it comes to the bonus, there really is no right or wrong way to solve that. The goal was to just mess around with another styling option or two. And if you head over to the example documentation, you can see that there is a line where they chain things together. Now here they call chalk.blue .bgred.bold to create text that's bold on a red background where the text itself is blue. So we can go ahead and use bold with our current setup to create bold green text. Now the order you put things in doesn't matter. So it could be bold first, then green, or green first, then bold. Let's prove it. Chalk.bold.green. I'm going to save the program. I'm going to rerun things. The program works and we do get our bold green text. Now let's remove bold and one of the extra dots and put it after green. So here I'm going to call chalk.green.bold, calling bold as a method. If we call bold as a method and rerun the script, we get the exact same result. So here we can chain together exactly what we need to create any sort of styling we want, giving us a nice set of options. We could add a third style into the mix alongside of green and bold. Now, maybe you tried to use inverse. If you scroll through this example, which is a great way to figure out how to use a library, you'll notice that inverse doesn't actually exist here. They use things like underline, they use underline there and down below, but there's nothing related to inversing the colors. If we scroll down a bit though, we can actually pull up the API docs. If we go back down to that styles section, we can see all of the style modifiers and all of the colors available to us. Right here, there's another option called inverse. Let's go ahead and actually use it just to see what happens. Now, once again, I could add inverse first, in the middle, or at the end. I'm just going to toss it right here. So we have chalk.green.inverse.bold. All this is going to do is make the green color the background, and if I run the script, that's exactly what we get. So there we go. We have completed the challenge successfully. I'm going to remove those challenge comments, and we now know how to use NPM libraries in our project, which is a good thing because we're going to use NPM libraries throughout the course to create our back-end APIs, real-time apps, and more. Now, there's just one more way we're going to explore how we can install and use NPM modules, and it's going to make our lives a lot easier. So let's go ahead and jump right into the next video.